Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it doesn't take much to change the course of a life, and guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. And if you are, hit subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating, mash that like button on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel, so if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably a few other places that I'm forgetting, at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that kindness and please pay us a visit. On this episode, we are diving headfirst into a brand new thriller, which had a limited theatrical with our neighbors to the south, but also available on video on demand platforms now. It's called 5 Pounds of Pressure, and it stars Luke Evans, Rory Culkin, and Alex Pettyfer. And it's an action thriller that tells the story of Adam, played by Luke Evans, who's an ex-con back in his old neighborhood after serving a 16-year sentence for murder. And he was walking sort of this really rocky path of trying to be forgiven, especially with the son, his son, who grew up without him all his life. But there's this thing that's looming in the background. It's the bitter and volatile brother of the young man that he killed so many years ago. But happening conversely to that, there's Mike, played by Rory Culkin, who's sick of running around for his drug dealing uncle, played by Alex Pettyfer, and wants to leave this sordid life behind. But when Adam and Mike's paths converge, destiny gives way to violence, and that final shot at redemption for both of them. It's gritty, it's realistic, a little sad too, but it's a very, very well done film from writer-director Phil Allocco, and we had the unique pleasure of sitting down and talking with him just about the origins of the story and casting and putting everybody together and getting this thing done. And that's about it. But like I said, if this sounds like it's up your alley, check out 5 Pounds of Pressure. Available on most video-on-demand platforms now, like Apple. I'm looking at it right now on Apple, so if you're in Apple, go rent it or buy it, and that's up to you. But first, enjoy our talk with the director and screenwriter, Phil, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. All right. Well, it wasn't 5 pounds of pressure with my finger to hit record, but I mean, obviously, just to kick it off, Phil, I mean, obviously, thank you so much for the time today, and just congrats on the film, man. I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me and talking with me about it.
Now, I guess my first question is like, walk me through the origin of wanting to tell this story.
Yeah, I started writing it over 15 years ago. I don't know why I wanted to write this. I just was compelled to tell the story about these kind of characters. It's a world that was familiar to me and grew up in a kind of neighborhood and world like this. So I think it was kind of cathartic to talk about these stories. And I think there are things I struggled with, the moral ambiguity, the gray areas where, things aren't so cut and dry. Even things that seem like they're black and white there are gray areas, and there's more complexity to these situations that meets the eye.
For sure, absolutely. And I mean, there's a line in the movie that really stuck with me, and I mean, to me, it almost kind of encapsulates the whole thing. I mean, there's nothing special about wanting to be special. It's the most ordinary thing around. And I mean, to me, I was like, bam, that is such a perfect line for this story. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, like when you were putting a movie together like this, like you said, you had to play in the shades of gray. And I mean, casting is obviously a big thing. Like Luke was great, Alex was great. Like, talk to me about trying to find the right people for these characters.
Well, it all starts with your main character, right? I feel like your main character kind of sets the tone for what kind of film you're going to be able to make, right? It's going to set who's going to be around that actor. So once we got Luke, which obviously I was thrilled and knew he'd be great. I remember watching different films and seeing the nuances he had in different areas of New York, his accents he would do in different films and TV shows, and I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing. And the fact that he responded to it, I thought he would be perfect, And the next person that I was really excited about was Rory. Mike was always a very challenging character on
Sure.
paper. He's unlikable on paper. So how could I find someone who's going to be able to bring empathy to this character? And I saw Rory in Lords of Chaos, and I thought he was just brilliant. And I
Yeah.
thought that film, it's a very unlikable character, but he brought such empathy to that character. He made me care in a film or a world or a story that I may not normally, right? I knew that story too, and I was
For
like,
sure. Yeah.
how are they going to pull one? How are they going to make this interesting? Um, and it's a great film, I think. So I was, just thrilled that he agreed to do this, and we had a great working relationship throughout the film. Had a lot of fun working on Mike, and he is a joy to work with. Alex, we got Alex very late in the game. He was one of the last people who were cast for the film as left. And it's so thrilling when I finally heard him do that, his accent. I was like, wow, he's really going for it. That's a tough one as a New Yorker, like, to pull that off and do it well. And he does, but he's kind of like as an actor, he's like a Ferrari, he can do anything. And Stephanie, um, I feel like is the heart of the film. I mean, her performances, I just, it was so powerful. I think she's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And Rudy was a great story too, because when Rudy, trying to find, now that you have your kind of Stephanie, and you have your Donna and Adam, then you start to think, well, who is, you got to have someone who fits as their son, who you believe, and I
Totally.
hope
Yeah.
believe is their son. And you know, Rudy, we had so many meetings before he would agree to the film because he wanted to know everything about Jimmy, understand his emotional, every choice he's made. He needed to understand all of it before he'd even agree to do the film. That's usually work you're doing after you're on, but we were working and doing these sessions because he felt like if he didn't have that, then he doesn't know if he could do the
For sure.
film. It says so much about the integrity of him as an actor. The work he put in.
100%. Yeah.
He was going to do it. I thought that was amazing, and I think it pays off when you see the film. All these conversations we had with, we did a lot of these, talking and really trying to understand what's behind every scene. And I think, those are the things that are not in the script, but you hope that they make their way and you feel it when you're
Right.
watching the film, and I hope that comes across.
No, I think it does, man. I mean, something else that really worked for me was because sometimes when we see a story like this, it can look a little too pretty, like a little too well lit, a little too well shot. But I mean, you shot the hell out of this because, again, the characters and the mood, like, the environment feels like a character. The mood is a character in this film. And I mean, you kept it in the shadows when it needed to be in the shadows, and just like like playing with like light and shadow and just sort of being in sort of half darkness. It was really amazing to watch. Can you talk to me just a little about just finding the visual aesthetic of the film? Because like I said, sometimes when these movies are too pretty or too well shot, it takes me out of the moment.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I can't say enough about Sarah Dean, the our DP, director of photography. She is an unbelievable talent. She's able to keep things very dark, but still be interesting and have a sparkle to them. So I like to,
Yeah.
there was something about her stuff where it's just not muddy, even
Right.
when it's dark. And her and I, we spent a lot of time, one of the benefits of COVID was, getting used to working on a computer a lot,
Right, right.
and sharing images. I mean, that's one thing that as directors today that we have such an advantage is what, normally we talk in movies like, oh, you remember that scene? I'd love it to look like this. And somebody will say that. But now we could just take screen grabs and share a
Right.
language, a visual language. And we did a lot of that with locations, getting the right look for every scene. And, because as you said, I mean, I that's how the film was designed, is that the city is a character in the film. It is supposed to feel like they're being squished, pressured by the city, and the grit and the feel of it. And I think another thing that, as a director, you're trying to lean into the talents of everyone you have. You want to get the best ideas of your whole team, your actors, your crew, and everyone on that screen. And I had noticed early on that I really loved Sarah's handheld operating. I really, I mean, you always have a plan of what you're going to do and how you do it, but the more I kept seeing her feel and her, I loved letting her, certain scenes we'd have certain coverage, and then maybe I would have like a handheld, like just go for it, like just kind of find the action, as you feel it. And it was so strong that I really leaned into that more and more. I was always intending to, as we got, as the film gets more unstable, to kind of have it start out more dolly moves and more, steady cam moves. And then as the film kind of moves, the editing gets faster and the handheld gets a little more erratic, and try to go build the tension visually. And it was fun to really lean into that with her, because she just had a great feel.
Now, I mean, I'm curious, is it true you actually shot this in the UK? Because I mean, I was going to say,
Yeah.
just there's something about this that feels very distinctly New York, but the more and more I think about it, it's like it's that sort of that brick and that sort of industrial and sort of being in those neighborhoods really has this sort of cinematic environment that's kind of hard to explain. And I mean, it's just a beautiful thing to watch. And what is it about, I guess, those kinds of environments, like something that you would find like, in Manchester where you shot, or something like New York, that has, you know, I guess that sort of like that quality, that cinematic quality.
There was this book, I forget the photographer, but he did it. It was called Beautiful Decay. And he went around filming, abandoned places, malls, or, just things are destroyed,
Right,
and he
right.
shot it with beautiful lighting and all that. And it's always moved me. I think I've always been moved by that aesthetic. I don't know what it is that in my psyche, but there's something about something broken and layers of things on it. There's this, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of those prison walls where there are things scratched on the wall. There's stories in the walls around you. I feel like the environment is telling you a story with its ripped papers or old prints and things on it, and this lack of somebody cleaning it all up. You feel like there's history there,
Yeah.
and you don't even know what it's saying, but it's there's something about it that is it's bombarding you with information in another way. So I like those kinds of broken places, and I think they fit the story.
No, absolutely. I love that say layers, because I mean, it's one of those things I always like to ask people, because we're in such a unique business. People come to this as fans first, and I mean, I've always got to ask, in watching something like this, where you say where like there's layers, you can see everything that's going on, like what happened, what used to happen, what has happened, and the history of it all. Like, was there a movie or a moment in your life that had the light bulb go off for you, that go, you know what? I appreciate those layers. I want to be able to tell stories like that.
I don't know if it was ahead of this film, but I mean, I am drawn to films like Requiem for a Dream
Right.
is a very dark film, gritty film. It's a New York film. It definitely has its influence on me aesthetically. Um, and but even films that aren't New York, like I love Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas
Oh,
Anderson.
totally. Yeah, my God. Yeah.
The visuals and the LA and the porn industry, but everything from the period pieces and the houses and the pools and just the world. It's so it just so immersive, you know. Or even There Will Be Blood, which is, you know, really like being transported, you know, even the lenses he used, everything. So I don't know. I think you know, I think there are, you know, even Scorsese, obviously,
Yeah.
Mean Streets and Taxi Driver, you know, he's the first one to really, you know, exploit New York as a character. Him and I would say Woody Allen, in my opinion, anyway.
No, totally, man. But I agree with you on that. And I mean, thank you for this film. Thank you for the time, man. Because again, this is one of those films where like I really was sort of sitting back and appreciating the aesthetic of not just the characters and what was going on, but what was going on behind them and in sort of the universe they were all existing, man. I thought it's a beautiful piece of work. But I mean, again, just thanks for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and thank you so much for saying that. I wish the whole crew could hear that because, you know, we worked so hard to like, you know, turn these places into the picture
Totally.
of New York, you know, you know, our production designer and our DP and, you know, the entire crew would love, you know, they would love to hear that.
Well, okay. Well, they will once this is published. But I mean, again, man, Phil, just congrats on the work and thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you so much. So nice to meet you. Thank you for
Likewise,
talking.
man. Absolutely. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Dave.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.